Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Taylor Pankratz, and this is Behind the Breakaway. Together with my co-host, Jason Barber, this show takes you behind the scenes of leaving your captive broker-dealer firm and explores the world of RIA independence.
All opinions expressed on the podcast by the hosts and guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Uptick Partners. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not legal advice and should not be relied upon as a basis for any decisions.
We are just coming off having been on the Mindy Diamond podcast. What an experience.
Truly was an honor to be on the podcast. And, just speaking from Taylor and I know how many hours of podcasts do you think? I think we were episode 253, and I think I've listened to at least 100. All right,
well, I would always search their podcast database for anything that said Edward Jones.
Yeah, Edward Jones, RIA, right? But for sure, Edward Jones. It was like we wanted to listen to, and I would just sit there and eat up every single word of every single podcast to try to get as much perspective on this whole thing as we could.
Yeah, because everybody's situation is unique, and everyone's telling their story about leaving from their wirehouse, and you're kind of like, well, does that really apply to me in my unique situation being where I'm at? And so we were always looking for people that had been where we were at and broke away in their specific situation, and because it's very nuanced,
Yeah, and it just seemed like there was very little of it.
Because it doesn't, people don't normally go on a podcast and talk about it for some reason.
People don't do that, and then I just think there was, I can't even really remember if there was anybody, I don't think there was anybody that did what we did or what we were thinking about doing. There were people that left Edward Jones that kind of did kind of similar things, but not exactly what we were doing. So then what ended up happening again is that you'd end up listening to, well, this person broke away from Merrill Lynch and launched their own RIA, and you're kind of like, okay, well, I'm learning from this person, but it's sort of hard to relate to that still because you just don't know. Things are different. It's just a different
100%.
terminology.
I can remember vividly being, we broke away in March of 23. I can vividly remember being on vacations, in 2022 and listening to the Diamond podcast and various other podcasts of people breaking away. You'd just be laying there, on the beach or in your hotel room, just trying to consume as much little tidbits of how they did it and how they did it successfully. And because every one of those podcasts is full of great information on how you can take what they did well and mistakes that they made and make it so it's just a great learning resource. And so that's the point of this entire podcast is, hey, we were hungry for information about how to leave our captive broker-dealer firm. This is a great resource for you to
just learn, just consume and in a confidential way, be able to learn and educate yourself about the industry. I think that's really what our goal is and our desire is. This podcast is not, certainly we want people to understand and know about what Uptick Partners does. But I think more than that, we're not trying to, recruit everyone, right? And every single advisor from any firm, anywhere, right? We're looking for partners that really see life the same way that we see things. Like what gets me excited about doing this podcast is the opportunity to just educate people, right? Even if at the end of the day, the person who's listening to this podcast, wherever they work, that they would be more knowledgeable about how all of this works, right? And understand the ins and outs of it. And if they decide, hey, you know what? Thought about it, understood it, know what the difference is. I know what an RIA is. And you know what? I think I'm just kind of more of an employee, and I think I like that better. And that's just what I want to do. Hey, more power to you. Right? More power to you, but just don't live in the dark, right, is basically the idea. Because, I think so many people just put blinders on and don't even understand this, and they don't realize the risks that they're facing, quite frankly, right, and the liability by not knowing.
100%. I mean, think of the what we would consider horror stories of people being fired from their captive broker-dealer firm just because of, I mean, innocuous things or things that on the surface seem rather, I mean, you're kind of like, you got fired from your business that you built.
You thought you owned it. Yeah, you thought that you owned it, and they tell you to act like an owner.
Right.
But...
Right. Yeah, and then you try to expense something that shouldn't be expensed, and it's like, actually, you're fired.
Yeah. Life comes at you really fast, right?
Yeah, so you're thinking, well, okay, well, so... what's the lesson there? Well, the lesson is kind of something that we've said internally. I don't know if we've said it on the podcast, which is if you're going to be an employee, then you better be the best damn employee that exists.
Yeah,
right. Because
exactly.
you cannot risk trying to, be an employee, but also maybe have a little freedom there and a little.
Yeah, you think to yourself, like other people have discretion. Or other people have this, or independent. If I was independent, I could tell somebody about alternative investments and kind of offer them some education on that. Or, I could talk to somebody about options or teach them about that. Or I could teach them about, real estate investments. And maybe you even have some of your own and you're kind of like, yeah, you might look at that. And next thing you know, it's like you're selling away from the firm, you're fired. Okay. Or next thing you know, it's, hey, I didn't have approved, or this wasn't approved this way or that way or whatever it may be. And, depending on your political popularity, maybe even, you might get a slap on the wrist or you might be walked out the door. And it's just, it's remarkable when you think about not just the actual, it's not even the enterprise value of the business, whether that be, call it 3x your revenue or possibly more depending on certain circumstances. But it's not even that. There's a lot of people who have family or desires for their children to take over the business. And you start thinking about the value of that and how that could disappear. It's just, it's a large amount of money that is tied to that business. And it's just, at the end of the day, you figure it out. You think until you hear of something, some stories. So since we've been on the Diamond podcast, as you can imagine, we've had a lot of incoming communication from other advisors around the country. And one call that I got today was from a former advisor at Edward Jones who was fired. And I don't remember exactly what year, call it, 10, 15 years ago. And so he was doing some due diligence on various firms, and is Edward Jones the best place? But according to him, hadn't really made up his mind that like he was for sure leaving, but just was looking around. And the way the story goes is that his BOA found out, and she I guess was maybe worried because the firm can kind of do that to you, that somehow or another if he left, that she might be without a job. And so she reports it to the regional leader, who reports it to the area leader, who calls this guy on a Friday and basically says something to the effect of, understand that you're thinking about leaving, to which he says, no, to which they then say, I don't believe you, you're out, right? And you hear stories like that and you're just thinking, but the real crazy twist to that story is how, what ended up happening is it was kind of like, yeah, you're out unless you want your daughter to take over, in which case you can just resign and she'll take over, which is just like, I don't know, the entire concept of that whole thing happening and how that could happen, even if you've done nothing wrong, right? You've just thought about it. You just thought about it, and how that could be turned against you is just unbelievable, which, I don't know, man. I mean, it's hard to even put it into words.
So I think it's important for people as they explore the other options that are out there, to, of course, be extremely careful in what any communication you have, anywhere that, how these people can get a hold of you. I mean, we should tell them the story about when we went to Colorado to do our due diligence, we were going to see Pershing, BNY Mellon Pershing, and they were kind of getting us the, go out there and look at it and do the whole dog and pony show. And we really enjoyed it. And but we wanted to stay an extra day. Pershing wanted us to stay for 2 days. I think we wanted to stay for an extra day. We wanted to go to Monday Night Football or something, or wanted to go play some golf. And so we decided we were going to stay an extra day. Well, somehow in the between the messages, or between kind of us communicating with Pershing on who would pay for this third day at the hotel, that we were supposed to pay for it. We thought Pershing was covering it. Well, at the end of the day, what happened? The hotel is looking for us by name to pay this bill.
They Googled us.
And they Googled us.
Yeah.
And called us at our office and talked to the staff and said, hey, does Taylor Pancratz work there? Yeah. Well, he was in Colorado last week, and he owes us.
Because Pershing didn't pay.
He owes us a night of hotel night. And you're just kind of going,
This can't possibly happen. It can't be real life.
We were so careful.
Yeah.
How could it possibly be that you're going, well, you have a rogue hotel clerk that's looking to get paid. And of course they are, but these are things that you don't even think could possibly exist. And all of a sudden the staff's going, oh, you were in Colorado with Pershing? Who's that? Oh, that's a vendor.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to be like, please stop asking questions about
the reality is that the hotel shouldn't have even known my name. Right. It should just be like, it's Ghost Protocol, right?
It's Ghost Protocol. Yeah.
Right.
So, that's a great segue into what's it look like, kind of what's somebody that's exploring Uptick Partners, exploring independence in an RIA world. Maybe they heard about us on the Diamond podcast. They go to our website. They say, contact us or let's chat. They click that button and they type in their information. What happens? Kind of walk me through. I'm filling that out. What happens? Is that information? Who's seeing that information, for one thing? Should I put a fake name and all that? Like, what's the level of scrutiny, or kind of what should I be doing if I want to contact you guys? But I don't want to be risking somebody finding out.
Yeah. So, I think the first answer to your question is that information stays with us, just me and you, right? Are the only people that are seeing that information, have access to that information, know the name and phone number. Secondly, I think that what you can anticipate or expect is that we will be very, very, nobody in this business is more aware of the seriousness and the sensitivity and the confidentiality of this matter. Nobody's more aware of that than us. I think that what you would likely expect is, some type of an email to your personal email, just asking to set up a time to visit, type of a thing. And to which we would set up a time, Zoom at your preference, wherever. For us, most of my meetings happened, from the front seat of my truck. I just would leave the office. I'd go to park at the Kroger or the post office or somewhere where I could just park and sit there for a while. And that's where I did all of you and I did a lot of our meetings, candidly. So,
so no one's overhearing the conversation.
No one's overhearing the conversation, and you're just truly able to talk. And so that would be sort of the first step, I would imagine, is that we would have an initial conversation where, we would get to know each other and give you an opportunity to ask any questions, learn more about us and our history, et cetera. There's a lot that goes into whether you're a good fit for us, more than just how much assets do you manage, et cetera. I think there's cultural fit. Do we, how type of business did you run, compliance questions, et cetera. But if we think that it's potentially a good match and that we may be able to be a good fit, then I would imagine that we would send you a questionnaire that you would fill out that would give us some basic details about your business, just so that we can kind of have a bit of a better understanding of things like how much fee-based business, how much commission business, how many how many accounts, total AUM, style preferences, et cetera, things of that sort. Just again, helping us to be able to create a pro forma and kind of build that out for you. And then what we would do is we would have an on-site due diligence trip, or at least this is what we would prefer to do. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think you would agree that we will do what is most comfortable for that advisor, right? But our objective and our goal is that we want that person to fully have a very clear understanding of what it would be like to partner with us.
Yeah, and so that's the beauty of the on-site kind of visit, is that they can come in, they can actually see live data, the technology live, right? They're not going through a demo where you're on a Zoom and the salesperson's telling you, well, you click here and see how this looks so good, and you're kind of like, is any of this data real, or is it, do all these cells really populate in real life, or is this just the best this version can look because you're in a sales environment, right? You need to be able to see the technology in our platform. You need to be able to see the technology live. You need to be able to see the cybersecurity division that we've got, and go see the servers, go see the staff, the cybersecurity infrastructure that exists to make sure that your client's data is going to be secure. Talk to the marketing team, right? Talk to the HR benefits people. Talk to the PR people.
Transition support.
Talk to the people that are going to be the SEAL Team 6, right? How am I going to break out of where I'm at to get where I need to go? And the whole time, you check into the hotel, right? The whole time, nobody knows your name.
Nobody knows your face, except for the people that have to, right? I mean, ultimately, except for you coming to sit next to me, right? Other than that, when we come in and we do a Zoom meeting and we bring in, the marketing team on a Zoom meeting, the camera is off and they're referring to you by an alias.
Right.
Right.
No, they genuinely think your name is, whatever we say, because that's what has to happen. You have to have that, because if you don't, all you're risking is that
your entire life. I mean, really,
somebody recognizes you from XYZ, and then all of a sudden there's one more person that knows that you're looking to break away.
And, wouldn't you agree that one of the things that we learned is how small this community is?
Such a small world.
The RIA world, and really, financial advisor world in general, but certainly the RIA world, these people talk to each other. These people see each other at conferences. You get one marketing person's like, oh yeah, I'm working with this other person who's about to break away from XYZ. It's kind of like, at the end of the day, that is one thing that I look back on and I think to myself, man, it is just truly a miracle that everything went smoothly for us, because I did so many technology demos and looked at so many different things, and so many people, because I didn't know. I didn't have anybody to counsel me on this in the early days. So many people knew who I was and what the story was and the whole thing. And it's just really a miracle that it went well. But I think that's the real idea, is like, hey, you check into the hotel, you come to our town, and that hotel is in my name or your name. Okay. Right. It's in our company's name. The hotel doesn't need to know your name. You're just there. Okay. Right. We've coined it hush protocol, right? And I love that term. It's just, at the end of the day, your goal needs to be, I'm doing this due diligence and I'm doing this research, and I'm doing it in such a way that very, very few people on the face of this earth know that this is happening.
Yeah, you want somebody to take it as seriously as you are, right? That's kind of the biggest problem. Is you go to, I'm remembering when we went to do our due diligence trips to all these other, RA roll-ups, or to Schwab or Fidelity, any of these places, and you're kind of like, does anybody really understand the risk that I'm actually taking by being here?
Exactly.
Because do they know that if the wrong person finds out about this trip that I could be fired? You're kind of like, I hope they do, but do they even understand that, right? Yeah. It's like, odds are they don't, because they don't live in that world.
And you know why? Because if you get fired, do you think they're losing sleep that night? Right? Do you think that is their livelihood, affected at all? Okay. If the Schwab guy, who's the Schwab sales guy or the Fidelity sales guy or the Pershing sales guy or any of that stuff, right? I mean, somehow something goes wrong, you get fired, the RJ guy, Raymond James guy, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's like I don't want to say that they don't care. They do care, I think. I'm not suggesting that they're heartless or careless or any of that kind of stuff, but I don't think that they care like I care or like you care or like Steve cares. Because at the end of the day, it just boils down to, if you've not done it and you've not lived it, you've not signed the resignation letter, you've not had that fear, the fear of God, literally, I just don't think that you can fully appreciate the seriousness of the situation. It's like when we picked up that recruit in Houston, one of the very first things that I said was, listen, I hope you don't think that this is weird, but we operate in hush protocol. And so like, this is how this is going to go. Like, I'm just letting you know that this is how this is going to go. And you might think it's weird, but I'm just telling you, you should appreciate the fact
we don't want that on our conscience.
Like,
right?
nobody knows more than I do, and I learned, but I didn't know early on the seriousness of this whole thing, right? I didn't know early on, but after the things that we've learned and the lessons we've learned, we don't play around. It's not a hobby. It's not a hobby. You've got to be deadly serious about this stuff, because it's just like you cannot take anything for granted, is what it boils down to.
Right.
So what else happens on a due diligence trip, though, right? Besides hush protocol, what else is kind of happening? Like, what does that actually sort of look like? Maybe just describe our most recent.
Yeah. So the most recent one is we try to do it over about a day or a day and a half. We don't want it to be this very overwhelming thing, but there is a lot of things to talk about and a lot of things to show how we're different and how we're uniquely positioned to help them, as opposed to the other umpteen different RIAs out there that are quote unquote offering the same thing, right? And so how do you show that you're offering truly something different for somebody that doesn't live in this world every day? And so that takes time.
Yeah.
And but we try to structure it out so that each aspect of what Uptick provides, or the things that might be relevant to you and things that you might be wondering about, get answered. That we've kind of talked about. The transition support. What does it look like for Uptick to help me get out of wherever I'm at? And like the minutia of that, right? Not just we help you do it, but let's talk about it at whatever detail that you might want to talk about it. Let's peel the onion back a little bit, because this is your time this is a due diligence trip, right? Needs to be where we kind of, brush away all the things that make it look pretty, right? And kind of wipe the lipstick off the pig, and let's really figure out
the nitty gritty stuff.
If this is, if there's some substance here, or if this is just a lot of salesy talk, right? And because we were a victim of that.
Exactly.
Right? We have been down the road where we spent 6 figures into a technology platform that we thought was great, and it turns out it's an abomination. And I honestly don't even know how people use it. But we've sat on that side of the table, and so what we want to do is we want you to be able to poke holes, if you will, in the technology. Hey, how does that work? How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do the things that you see yourself doing on a daily basis inside the technology, and see how, kind of put yourself there and see how it would look like
let's
if you
literally go play some trades.
Yeah, let's play some trades in clients' accounts and show you that this is not smoke and mirrors.
Exactly.
Right? This is real data. This is real integration. This is not a sales Zoom call that every sales demo I've ever been on, it's kind of like you hit. It's kind of like in. What's that show with like the Truman Show, where you like hit the end, right? You hit the thing where they're like, well, this is where the demo stops because we don't have the license, we don't have the sign on for Riskalyze. But this is where
it would work.
It would take you. If you click this button right here, it would take you to Riskalyze, and you're kind of like, oh, so we've hit the
glass wall.
We've hit the set, hit the side of the movie set, right? We can't go. We just have to use our imagination on what that could look like. That should not happen for you.
Yeah,
it's
ridiculous.
Like why should that happen?
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah,
so it doesn't need to happen. That's what we're saying.
It's because you're talking to salespeople and not actual financial advisors.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You know, so not practicing advisors.
Right. And so it needs to be. You really deserve to have the due diligence trip. Needs to like place you into the spot that you see yourself being after you break away and go, can I see myself functioning day to day as a financial advisor using this technology? And then, so that's kind of like, that's the technology sector. And we kind of talked about this, or the technology is part of it. We talked about the marketing a little bit, but you know, I think there's a tremendous value that might be overlooked by a lot of the captive broker-dealer people about the importance of having a bona fide web presence on day one.
Cannot be stated strongly enough. And that you've got a brand, an excellent logo, the right color schemes, the talk about the difficulty that we had in just creating the content on our website originally. You know, it's like you think about building a website and you're like, who writes all the words on this website and how does it sound good? You know, like you and I did that, right? We did that for ours, and it's just the amount of time and effort and hours that we spent, and it just makes my head hurt. And so, but it matters. All of that stuff matters. The video, we didn't, you know, talk about the marketing videos, right? If anybody that's listening to this, go to our website and check out the work of our video guy, Clinton.
Holisticplanning.com.
Holisticplanning.com. Go check out the videos on there and see what we're talking about. It's not a hobby for Clinton, and we take it really seriously.
Yeah, because I think it's important that the brand. Well, first of all, you're not going to want to change the name of your company after you've announced it to the clients. You're not going to change your logo and all that stuff, right? So it needs to be right the first time.
Yeah.
And so you need to put the effort in with the marketing team to say, you know, what am I trying to have my clients feel when they see my logo? You know, that's a whole nother maybe podcast about like the entire marketing side that when you're at the captive broker dealer, that part of your brain doesn't even fire, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have an option to. I mean, maybe now that they let you co-brand, some of these firms let you kind of co-brand, right?
I mean, they're going to basically you're going to be so limited in what you can actually even call it, though. But yeah.
So I mean, the reality is, you have a bunch of advisors that they've never really massaged that part of their brain in terms of how am I going to market myself, and they have all these aspirations. Well, these ideas that you've got, or maybe you don't have any ideas at all because you don't live in that world. You need to have somebody that does this for breakaways specifically, and that's what they do, right? They're a marketing firm for financial advisor breakaways.
Yeah, and these folks, they take it deadly serious. And the thing about too, the timing of this whole thing, and how you need to have somebody when it comes to this that you can trust. All right, trust perhaps the marketing people. You know, as much as we trust them, they're probably also somebody that they need to know. You know, they're some of the last people they need to know. You know, candidly, what your name is. Okay, but for fear of there being a mistake or something like that, you know. But the idea
right, because
would be
they can launch the rocket, right? They've got the website, and you don't want that website going early. That's what we talk about, like why they should not know your real name is because they hold the keys to telling the world about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden it's on Google and it's done, right? So there's got to be it's got to be literally like the nuclear keys, right? They're kind of a thing, you know. It's like you got to have two people turn the key at the same time, kind of a thing.
Let's count down from 3.
Yeah. And so
but I do think that that whole it's like that whole dance, if you will, of the timing of that, where you're breaking away and you're launching the website and you're launching your Facebook and LinkedIn business pages and you're launching your Google My Business. That whole thing. Well, first of all, you can't do that before you break away.
Yeah, but it needs to be the second I signed the resignation letter, and it's like the nuclear codes have been entered, right?
Yeah.
And
so, what's the worst thing that can happen is you either try to do that yourself, and you're going, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to resign, and then I'm going to try to have my company email set up, and then I'm going to have to try to create my Facebook and LinkedIn and Google things so that when I start calling these people and they Google it, that it actually shows up, and that takes time. You're not going to want to do that after you resigned.
You shouldn't be.
You're going to want to start figuring out who your clients were and start calling them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is something that it's like that little minutia where you're thinking, oh, I didn't even think about, I can't create my Facebook page before I break away.
Yeah.
So when does that get created?
And then what does the logo look like on there? Does it look professional?
Yeah. Is it blurry?
Do I have a headshot?
Is it blurry? Is my
headshot the same headshot that I used at my previous firm? Right. Or is it like, no, it's actually a very professionally done, high quality headshot, et cetera.
Does it take 2 weeks for my company's name to show up on Google when clients Google it? I mean,
is there a story in the news? Is there
stuff?
Is there a story on
It's on wealthmanagement.com.
Is there a story in the front page of your newspaper at your hometown newspaper? All of these kinds of things that it all adds to that legitimacy factor of this is real. So that's where we will guide you through and introduce you to people that are experts in this. Okay?
Or you're like, I want to put a billboard up.
Yeah.
Well, we would know that is not an overnight thing.
Exactly.
Right. And someone's got to design that. Someone's got to get the contract with the billboard. All these things, you do not want to be dealing with them, but they're very, very important. And so how do you prioritize it? Well, the idea is that you let other people this is what they do, do that and run with it. And they're going to do it 100%, 100 times better than you're going to do it.
You got to have a team. You need a team of people. You need SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's why we call it SEAL Team 6.
Yeah. Unless you're like an advisor that's really good at Photoshop and all these things, you're not wanting to spend time doing that.
But even then, even if you were good at it, it's just like you can't do. That is not the most productive use of your time. Yeah.
What can you outsource? Somebody creating a logo for you or calling your clients?
Exactly. Yeah. So we do. So let's see. We do the transition, and then we do the marketing, and then I think we did compliance maybe after that, which I think was really, really eye-opening, big time. So we love our compliance folks.
It's almost great because I love seeing people's brains explode, kind of like ours did when we first realized, wait a second. So you don't have to do an annual review for every client, like rain or shine. What if they don't want one? Too bad, you got to do it. Or what happens if I don't do it? Well, you don't get paid. Like, that's insane.
It is.
But that's the world that we lived in. And watching people's reaction when you tell them, no, you don't, like, that's not a requirement. Like, that's not an SEC thing, right?
I don't have to do a retirement plan for my client. Like, they don't have to have a retirement plan. That's not a thing, because maybe I've got a guy that's got $10 million and is not going to ever run out of money, or maybe they just don't care or not interested in that. Maybe they're never going to retire.
Oh, they want to own a whole bunch of oil stocks in their account, and then you don't do compliance based on account by account. Yeah, I mean, it really is
rebalancing by account versus by the household. Oh man, this one position makes up 50% of this account, but it's 5% of their overall portfolio, so it's no big deal. But previously, it would have been a big deal. All these kinds of things that you just but it's like, I can say it, but it's not the same thing for me to say it as the person who's an expert at this and been doing it for 30 years and can really convey. This is kind of why being regulated as a fee-only advisor is better. and this is what this looks like day in and day out. This is what it looks like for you as an advisor in a fee-only RIA.
Right.
So we do that maybe for 30 to 60 minutes. And then I think after that...
Did HR?
No, I think what we did next is we did lunch, and then candid BOA conversations, which was really, I thought, possibly one of the best parts of the whole thing, because, I mean, if you're an advisor and you're leaving and you take our advice and you don't talk to your staff, again, hear me out, please don't talk to your staff. Please don't. It's just better for everybody if you don't. But it's good, I think, to be able to have conversations with people that have been in those people's chairs too, okay? And hear from them of like how difficult it was, to be honest, and what they liked, what they didn't like, all of that conversation.
What should you say? What's going to kind of help, maybe help them decide to move with you?
Mm-hmm.
Just, I do agree that's a very important aspect of why. But why is that important? It's because this is something that not every other firm out there can sit there and put two former BOAs in front of you and go ask them questions. And then what do we do after that?
Then I think we did HR. I think, if memory serves me correctly, I think it was HR. And so that was also really very, very cool and very insightful, I thought, to be able to hear and just learning more about what we have and this enterprise level solution that we can offer for that. Because especially for yourself and for your staff, you want this to, you're going from Fortune 500 firm to nothing burger, right? And there needs to be this feeling of, hey, we've got benefits, we've got a 401k, we've got payroll, there's a mobile app that you can see your paycheck and it's going to be deposited on time.
Track your PTO.
Track your PTO.
All this needs to feel.
Yeah.
This needs to feel like an upgrade.
Yeah, exactly.
So how can you go from
and not to mention just protection too, of like, well, how do I protect myself from wrongful termination lawsuits, or do I have insurance? I mean, all these things that you don't think about. People don't think about when they think I'm going to go independent. Like they don't
because
think,
they've never had to, because they've been employees.
They've been employees, or if they go to some other employee firm, well, they're still an employee. Right. Or even if you're 1099, I would imagine if you're, part of a bigger firm, they may do some of that stuff for you or give you some resources. But but then there's drawbacks to that, right? Because now you don't have the same level of control that you do in the RIA space. So you want the control of the RIA space, but it's like, man, you got to figure all this stuff out if you don't have us to help you with it. And so that's the idea of what we're trying to do, is to make it just a little bit easier for you, but still give you that control and that freedom.
Right. You need access to benefits, but if you've got a staff it's you and a staff of two, good luck.
Exactly.
Right. You've got to have some level of association or access to somebody that can give you benefits to your staff at a level that they're going to be proud of and that you're going to be proud of and that are going to be comparable to what they're used to. Or else, when you ask them to come with you and they have all these questions and you just tell them, well, we'll figure that out. That's not going to make them feel very confident that you know what you're even doing. I mean, we've even seen that you'll have an advisor leave and their staff might follow them, but it could be a couple weeks. Well, why is it a couple weeks? Because they want to make sure that it's going to be okay, right? Because they don't have these answers to these questions of, well, what happens with my health benefits? I mean, I've got to go to the doctor next week for something that I need to have benefits for. And we'll get that figured out. Well, I can't go a week or two without benefits because I have a family.
Exactly.
And you're kind of like, I really wish you would move today because I need your help. It's like, you got to have this stuff figured out. It's not okay. It's not good enough to go, well, we'll figure it out. We promise. And if God forbid something happens, like you have to have insurance.
It needs to be like, you've got a question. Here's the 1-800 number. Call them right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, when you say you want to move with me, you'll get an email to enroll.
Yeah.
And to onboard and enroll in our company. And you can sign up for benefits today.
Exactly.
So, I mean, these are things that you've got to do. Okay, so that's HR.
Then we had cybersecurity,
which I thought was great.
I think it was great too.
I mean the SEC putting a significant, like a spotlight on making sure that you're doing everything you can do from a cybersecurity perspective to avoid the risk, even so much as mandating that your vendors are following the SEC protocols in terms of cybersecurity. So, making sure that we have to make sure that our technology stack, that those people are not mismanaging or mishandling our clients'
because we're responsible.
Because we're responsible, right?
Exactly.
So it's important. And if you're going to go out there and do it yourself, this is an important aspect of making sure that something as simple as, what if somebody steals my laptop?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need to have a contingency or something that happens when that happens. Like, does it get remotely wiped? What happens? Is there anything actually stored on that, or is it actually stored on a server somewhere else, and there's nothing actually on the computer?
Yeah. Or what if they have my laptop and my password? Oh, well, is there two-factor authentication? Okay. Right. I mean, with all of these kinds of things, that it matters. And so Nackspace, is incredible, and shout out to Nackspace, but such an incredible thing to be able to go there and see this in person, and not just the cybersecurity element of it, but also just the IT setup. You think about, I go back to our Breakaway and thinking about, you remember how we couldn't figure out, how do you find these high-speed printers and how do you get one? You don't go to Walmart to buy high-speed 40 pages per minute printer.
Right. And where are you getting that thing shipped to, and how are you getting that thing installed in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Where's that thing getting shipped to? Your house, and you're going to put it in the back of your truck and get it. It's like these little things. You're like, how do I get that installed in my office?
Yeah. So I mean, our story, which I'm still sensitive about it, but our story is like, we had to find a guy to install some technology. We pay whatever, $5,000-$10,000, and we get, junk printers show up, and then it's just kind of like, that's just money down the toilet, right? But it is what it is. But you can't call the Xerox company, and say, hey, I'm about to quit. I need you to bring me some Xeroxes. Please don't tell anybody. Okay. It just doesn't work, and so, it's
not in a small town.
Not in a small town, that's for sure. Exactly. And even in a big town, you can't take that risk. And so that's one of those things where, hey, our IT people, they got you. Okay. They got you. It's literally like, it's hush protocol. SEAL Team 6 shows up, installs. We've got a blueprint of your office location, where you're going to be. Where do you want your computers? How do you want it installed? Cybersecurity setup, printer here, printer there. How many laptops? Already set up with Microsoft Office, ready to go. All right. Phones are working. Internet's working. All of that stuff. And then you think like, internet. How do I actually get that set up without calling? Who's going to do that? Who's going to call the internet company and set up the internet?
Yeah.
And how am I going to get a phone number?
Or how long does that take? What's my lead time there?
Yeah. And so all of that stuff is done. It's done, right? We've already got it figured out. It's done, and we can help you do it too. And so that's what the whole tour of
for the Breakaway, and also that's on Breakaway to get you set up for Breakaway Day, but also just as you're doing day-to-day financial advisor and running an office.
Yeah.
A lot of these people they're not IT wizards, right? They need somebody that, if my staff is having a problem with their computer, that they can call somebody and either get a computer the next day, overnight it, or they can fix it over the phone and remote in.
That's the idea. So the tour there was incredible. And I think we came back after that, went over the pro forma, so we kind of went through in great detail exactly what the financial terms would be, and answered questions about that, and then we went to dinner. Is that pretty much?
Yeah. And so that's, what we're wanting to, like Jason said, alluded to earlier, we don't anticipate that we're a good fit for every single person that's out there exploring their options. What we know that we're a good fit for is people that want to be in the RIA space, because they only want to move their book once. And they know that they want to grow. They're going to grow the most in the RA space, and they're willing to not have a pit stop at the IBD channel first, right? So if you want to be in the RA channel and you want the freedom that allows, you just want some support to not have to figure out all these minutia things by yourself. And you kind of, in that, like that mindset, plus you see life the way that we see it, you kind of have the same values and culture that we have, because we're very protective of the culture, right? We're trying to build a firm with a culture that we can be proud of, very similar to kind of the culture that we were coming from before it kind of took a turn for the worst, right? And so we're trying to reinvent the culture that
the partnership culture and the just the apple pie Christian conservative, just good high like values, right? Value system, the same value system. And I would also add that the type of person that we're looking for is an entrepreneur, right? They're a problem solver. They're an entrepreneur. They're not looking to have somebody else solve all their problems. They're problem solvers, and they don't necessarily have to have some, huge back office, because guess what? You got a huge back office, you got a huge bill for that. Okay. And so, so you don't need, and you don't need it, right? That's the other thing too, is like, what are they going to do? What are they really going to do for you if you have a big, huge back office? I think what you're going to find is that you're paying for a whole bunch of stuff that 95% of the time you don't need it. Right. And so really being kind of a more in that RIA entrepreneurial mindset is the type of person that we're really looking for, and somebody that wants control. They want to control it. They just don't want to have to reinvent every little single detail that we've already figured it out. All the painstaking stuff, all the lessons that we've learned, all the money that we've wasted, they don't want to have to make those same mistakes.
Right.
So they're just going to join us, and I really truly believe that, the economics at the end of the day is it's not going to be that much different economically, in money in your pocket to do it yourself versus join us. Really don't, because
it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if anything that we said today resonates with you, if anything, you're listening to this on your way to work or when you're going to sleep, if any of this is going, you know what, I should at least have a conversation with those guys, because just to explore if this could possibly be a good fit, go to our website, uptickpartners.com. There's a little button in the top right that says Let's Talk. Fill in your information. You can put a fake name. We don't care. Just put a real email address so that when we reach out to you, you get it. And then we'll set up a time to talk, and we'll kind of go from there. But that's a great way to start the conversation. And like I said, one thing we can promise you is this won't feel salesy to you. This will not feel salesy to you, right? We're going to tell you exactly what we think and how it is. And then hopefully we think that maybe that aligns with you, and maybe it doesn't, but we're not going to sugarcoat anything and make you think that it's better than it is, right? We're going to tell you exactly how it is. And that's something that, you should appreciate, because in this world, when you're looking to break away, 95% of the people you meet are just trying to sell you something, right? Their technology, or join them because it's going to be rainbows and butterflies, and that's what you're not going to get that from us. And so, because we respect you too much to do that to you, right? And so,
because we can relate and we know the seriousness of what you're thinking about doing.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and so we certainly don't want to have on our conscience anything that's going to get you fired or anything like that, right?
Exactly.
We can't live with ourselves if that happens. So anyways, go to the website, check us out, and reach out if any of this is of interest to you. And smash that subscribe button.
Oh yeah, subscribe. Listen to find us on YouTube, Apple Podcast.
That's right.
All right. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please subscribe to our channel. You can find more of our episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And check us out at uptickpartners.com, where you can learn more about how we help breakaway advisors just like yourself find independence.